Alright, we are going to continue our lecture on patient rights and responsibilities. So what responsibilities do you think patients have? So, yes, they have rights, but they also have responsibilities as patients being seen by healthcare providers. This is where I let you list as many as you can for 3 minutes. So just think, what responsibilities do you think a patient has when they are seen at a hospital, an orthopedic clinic, urgent care, you name it? So, here are some of their responsibilities to start off with. They must provide information about past medical history. So they need to give the person who's trying to evaluate them all the accurate information they can. They also need to participate in decision making. The doctor is going to give them choices, even recommend certain choices, but it's up to the actual patient to make the decision. It's like you go into a grocery store. You're not going to have someone shop for you. They might tell you what's on sale and what tastes good, but you have to make your frickin' own choice. You should always ask for information and clarification if you don't understand something. That is your responsibility. The physician cannot read your mind. So if you don't know about something or you're unclear about something, ask. This is where I see a lot of people with insurance just go along with the plan and they get taken advantage of all the time. Always ask every little detail about your insurance. This is what I always see, is I would walk into a room and I'm telling them that the doctor has recommended they wear a boot to feel better. And they say to me, well, what do you think I should do? Well, what did the doctor say? Wear a boot? Okay, wear a freaking boot. Many people see the dollar sign attached to the brace and they don't want to pay for it. But they forget that they came to a doctor to ask for advice. And what makes me so angry is when people go to a doctor, they go to an athletic trainer, and then they want to hear something different than what the doctor recommends, and then they don't want to do it. Remember, you go to the doctor for their advice because you're not a doctor. And if you're going to the doctor, you should listen to the doctor. Their goal is to only make you better. And if you try and you don't get better, well, remember that it's a science. They're physicians, they're humans, and they're going to try something else after that. Sometimes it is hard to be a doctor, and you just need to go along with the program. This is how healthcare works anywhere in any country. Patients need to inform providers if they anticipate problems in following their prescribed treatments. For example, if you know you're allergic to something like anti-inflammatory, you need to let them know that before they prescribe you Advil or something. That's huge, okay? That's your responsibility to know your allergies and to tell people that. If you anticipate any other problems, like you are just lazy, I don't know if I'm going to do that, I don't know if I can do exercise at my home, great, let's prescribe you PT where you have to do it, you're forced to do it, you have to pay for it, and maybe you'll take it a little bit more seriously. If you know you have problems or stairs at home and they're trying to give you a wheelchair, well, tell them that. You have to be helping the process. Be aware of the agency's obligation to be reasonably efficient and equitable in providing care to other patients. This is clearly if you're going to a clinic or an ER, and there's a whole bunch of people there. They have to do their process. People are in line, and they're going to treat whoever they can when they get there. I remember I went to an ER once, and I had to wait 4 hours because my wife was having heart pain, and she had pericarditis. There was also someone there who was waiting 6 hours because she had some knee injury. Now, she was all pissy because she's been waiting 6 hours. And me and my wife are totally fine waiting, and she has a heart condition. Who should be seen first? The person that's having heart issues, not the person that's having a knee issue. The knee issue can wait. Yes, maybe it's painful. It's not life-threatening, though. And so, as a patient, you have to be conscious of the people that they're seeing first, okay? Especially if you're late. If you're late to an appointment, man, you're back to the line. You should provide necessary information for insurance claims and working with the agency to make payment arrangements. This is the best part, I think, because there are payment arrangements with all places. And so, like me, I'm a teacher. I don't have $2,000 to pay off bills here or there. And so I always make a payment plan, and I always provide the necessary information with the insurance claims in order to set this up. I did this when Lily was born. I did this when I went to the hospital. So this is a part that's your responsibility, but it really works with you if you don't have the money to pay something off all the way that first time you get that bill. So consent, you've heard me say this plenty of times. This is when you have the opportunity to be an informed participant in the healthcare decision, and you give them authority to perform something. So you have to have informed consent. And in order to give them consent, you need to have these following elements, okay? The nature of the decision and procedure, reasonable alternatives to the intervention, so you might make a different choice, relevant risk, benefits, and uncertainties, assessment of patient understanding, so you clearly understand what all those are, and then acceptance of the intervention. Okay, this is when you finally say, I give consent, I sign consent in order for the medical staff to make these decisions. If you can't make consent because you're in a coma or something, then you trickle along some other guidelines where if it's a life-saving procedure, consent is assumed. But some other treatments, you might need somebody else to come in there and actually give consent for you, like a family member or a close friend. And like I said, you must be competent to make the decision at hand. Remember that story of that guy who cut off his own hand because he thought it was the devil, and then he didn't know if he wanted it sewed back on or off? That guy really, he won his lawsuit because he wasn't competent to make consent. Even though the physician was listening to him, he was clearly deranged in his mind about what to do, and maybe even faking it in order to get compensation. And consent must be voluntary. You can't force consent on somebody. You have to make them make their own decisions, okay? And there's, like I said, lots of interventions required a signed consent form. Many times we go to a doctor's office and you sign something, you're signing a consent form that is just ahead of the decision-making process, so they already have it on file. And of course, if you can't give consent, you're in a coma, you're blacked out, you are intoxicated, they'll make a surrogate decision maker speak for you instead, like your parents or a family member. So patient confidentiality. By law, all personal medical information must be kept private. Patients can share private information with healthcare providers, and the healthcare providers have a duty to respect the patient's trust and keep this information private. This requires restricting access of others to private information. Now, you can write down who you want to actually have access to this. Right now, it's definitely your parents, but when you get older, when you get 18, if you don't want them to see your information, you can say, I don't want anybody to see my information. It's up to you. I wrote this list of asterisks here at the bottom because when we're at Resurgence, anytime we saw that on the patient list, we knew that there was somebody famous at the clinic. I've heard Justin Bieber get seen at Resurgence. I know I saw Andre 3000 from Outkast one day. And he actually didn't have his name asterisk. He just had his regular name, which is Benjamin something. I forget the rest of it. But if you see that, and I were to click on that file, and I don't have any reason to click on that file, I would get fired. That is a booby trap. They would alert the information technology department of an access, a breach of access, and they would find out who logged in and who actually accessed that, and then find out, did you have any reason to do that? And if you don't have any reason to log in to find to search that person's file, you would get fired. Easy. So I even knew that Cam Newton went to go see a doctor here at Resurgence earlier over the summer. And I don't know how the guy didn't get caught, but maybe he was seeing the patient or something. But he told me, yep, Cam Newton just got saw for his ankle at Resurgence. It's funny stuff. So HIPAA, super important law, stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. This was created in 2003, especially when a lot of digital information was starting to take place. and it protects patients' medical records and other health information. So it gives you also access to your medical records whenever you want, and it'll protect all information on the computer, on paper, or even oral communication. Okay. So here are your rights via HIPAA. You're able to see and obtain medical records. You're able to give information by healthcare providers about how they use your medical information, where they're going to store it, where they might send it off for research studies, but they have to ask you about that. You're allowed to set limits on how personal health information is used. You're allowed to restrict who has access to the information. You're allowed to file a complaint if you think your HIPAA rights have been violated. And so with that law in effect, it's very important for healthcare people to practice confidentiality. So these are ways to do this. You should not talk about patients in public places where others may overhear. You should never use patients' names if others in another room might overhear. Use caution about giving results over the phone or about leaving messages. That is something big. You always want to make sure you reach the person that you're trying to give information for. And don't leave charts or reports where others can see them. I put this little drawing at the bottom called water cooler talk, gossip talk, when people would talk in the hallways about things. This is horrible. This is where you can even see teachers do this too. They should be always talking without using people's names, in privacy, by themselves. If they're talking about your condition and the door is open at a hospital or clinic, that's not good either. That's not good confidentiality practice. You should never leave a computer screen on when you are not at your desk for longer than 10 minutes. You should change your passwords routinely, include letters and numbers in your passwords. And what can help solve this to make sure your computer screen doesn't stay on? Well, you should get some dumb screensaver. And that would help to log you off when you're on there. When I was working at Resurgence, we had to change our password every month. And usually we had some running number in it. And some people would write down their passwords and put them next to the computer. That doesn't help the process. So you need to be secure, and this is just good practice. Even with like your email addresses, I would always use the same password with a number and a special character. So many people use like an exclamation point after their number and a name or something like that. So remember that there are many, many patient rights. There are many, many patient responsibilities. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. Okay, and it is the governing law that protects your health information and your confidentiality. Okay, all right. I will see y'all next week. Bye-bye.